next stage of the process is to create an assembly of the parts that we have put together. So I'm going to start from within here, although you can just start directly from an assembly, but I will go and use an assembly of the actual model. Choose your assembly template, and I'm going to close the current document when it opens in the assembly. So you'll see that it's positioned it coincident with the origin of the assembly. If you don't want that, you can right mouse click on the part and go to occurrence properties, and here you can change its position as an offset from the origin of the assembly. So the process from here is to bring in the other parts. So I'm going to start with the holder base, which is this one here. Holes at the wrong end, so I am going to hold the middle mouse wheel down and rotate that around. This only works automatically out of the box with part files. You can right mouse click on the area in here and go to preview window, and you can choose whether you want both being interactive or not, and whether it is on or not. So the reason that they choose bitmap for the assemblies is that assemblies can be quite large and it could become unmanageable. So let's rotate that back around. And the reason I'm doing this is that the orientation that you see in here is the orientation it comes in. So when you've done that, you can bring it in, and you'll notice that where I let go is where it gets dropped. Flash fit is a relationship type that will take the nearest horizontal, vertical alignment, axial alignment, whatever. So if I choose the axis of this hole here and the axis of this hole here, it's going to drop it down so that they are aligned. And then I can use a different type of option here. I'm going to use a center plane, and I've got it set to double. That's two faces to define what the center plane is. So it doesn't have to be anything too obvious. So it doesn't really matter which faces as long as they are aligned. So typically you'll end up with 2 or 3 relationships. In this case, I've got 2 plus the it's recognizing because it's connected to this one that it's got a ground in here as well. So I could at the moment it's free to rotate because I've locked it in the Y direction and positioned it through that point there, so it can rotate around if need be, which I'll do at a later point. So then we go back to our parts library, and I want to look at the holder top, which is this one here, correct orientation, so I can just drag that straight in to one I'm after, and I will use the same axial align, and this time I'm going to use continue to use flash fit, but I'm going to come down and use the show reference planes. So I'm going to use that plane there with the assembly plane here. So that sort of then defines its position. Now that I've got it defined, I can turn that off again. And as I did before, I'm just going to exit out. If I want to adjust its position, I can use the steering wheel. I want the center of one of these. So if I click on the edge, it's going to give me the center. So that's the rotation point. And if I come back to the front plane and click on the torus, you can see that we can just bring that around to a sort of suitable position, which we can come back and edit later. So then going back to my parts library, we've got the frame top here, and again that's in the correct orientation, so I can just drag that in and use the same relationships. changing that to center plane. And as you can see, we've got some interference on here. So once again, I will escape out, position the steering wheel, and just bring that back to a orientation that is a little bit better. So that's sort of the process. We've got the press to add in as well. Orientation wants to be somewhere in that region. So I will drag that in over here somewhere. And I want to take the bottom face there and align it with there. And then I will use that center plane once more. So we go with that plane, and so if you hold still and right mouse click, you get the options of the other faces that are there rather than having to rotate all the time. And then finally we'll do the same thing on here to position that in. So if we want, we can add some sort of color to this. If we go under the view command, if I click on a part, we can change its color. This will override. So we can give it a nice red top. We could make that one maybe a steel, and we've sort of now done the main part of the assembly. So let's take the assembly to the next level. We've got a option here to use the drag command, and in the options you've got whether you want to work with just the active or use inactive as well, and we want it to detect collisions among the analyzed parts and stop movement when the collision occurs. So what I want to do is look at this part here and see how much range of motion it's got. I've set my option here to be rotated because that's the sort of only real main option we've got, and we're going to rotate it back around that hole there. So if I then just click in an area, you can see that we can move it and it collides at that sort of angle, which in most cases you'll find that staplers would be able to open a bit further than that. So I'm just going to put this back down again to somewhere around there. So obviously it's colliding on the back edge here, so we haven't made it big enough. So what I'm going to do is use the option. So if you go to select, so far we've been working with selecting parts, but we can choose to let's exit out of there, choose to have face priority. So if you have a synchronous part, you can edit it from within the assembly. So if I go there and then pick on this face here, we need to move this out a little bit. So going to my steering wheel, I can then just drag this out, and I'll bring it out, say about 5mm. So I can type that size in and just drag that so that we have options for a little bit more movement. So obviously you can switch between the two here. You can see on the prompt, control spacebar will put me back to priority in selecting parts. So as you can see, it's now selecting parts rather than faces. So now if we go back to our drag component and pick up on this and the hole about which to rotate, you'll see that we can now take that a lot further before it collides. So we can then go back to reset. One thing that we also haven't done is to create a pin that goes right through here. So I'm going to use the create part in place. And you've got options here. You can sort of put the origin of the part coincident with the assembly origin as an offset value. And I'm going to use by graphic input because I want it centered. So I'm going to come to this point here, which is where I want the pins to start. And then if I accept or right mouse click, it's going to ask me to give it a name. And then it puts me into the part environment. So pin.par in solid edge assembly. So I've still got access to all this solid edge assembly information. So I can go and do a circle by center. I'm in synchronous, so I should be able to pick up on a plane. No, sorry, it's put me in order. So I just want to go to that size there, accept it, and then finish. So then I will go to the extrude command and choose select from sketch. Click on that, right mouse click to accept it, and then I'm going to bring it through and get the key point at the other end to finish. So then we can close and return back to the assembly using Control I to get back to the isometric view. You can see that we've now got that pin going all the way through. So I thought I saw when I created the pin that it didn't quite have the same hole size all the way through. So if we go to the Inspect tab and go for Check Interference, so select Z1, I want to look at that pin. And then under Options, I want to choose all other parts in the assembly. So it's going to check it against everything else. So if we go Process, you'll see that we have an interference and it's on that holder base. So that's gone wrong. So we'll need to adjust that. So if I exit out of here, I could go in and edit the part directly, or alternatively, I can go to the Tools menu and choose Peer Variables. And then if I click on the part that I'm interested in, you'll see that all the variables, all the dimensions have values in here, as well as some of the procedural features as well. So we can see that the hole diameter on that part is 2. So we can just type in 2.5 and that will adjust up and you see it change in there. So if we go back to our check interference, and it tells me there's no interferences detected anymore. So we have now fixed that up and we have something that is a little bit more functional. For the final step, I'm going to create a third relationship on this part here. So we go edit definition. In here you can see the other two. So if you wanted to edit, you could go back and edit those. I'm going to create an angular relationship this time, and I want it to be within a range. And that range, so it starts off horizontal coming out in the X direction to the right, and it'll go in a clockwise direction. So to come horizontal here, I want that to be 180, and I want the total angle to go down to 250, so it's a 70-degree sweep on there. and you need to specify which faces it's measuring from. So we're going to go from that bottom face to the assembly coordinate system, and then the third one here is what the measurement plane is. So effectively what plane the dimension gets placed on. So that has created a final relationship. So if we look in here, you'll see that we can click on here and it's got its range in here. If you wanted to see which other ones you've got, so that's gone 175, so that's gone in an anti-clockwise direction. That's gone 355, so it's gone from the horizontal here, going to the left, swinging round, and then so on. So you can see what the relationships are. So this one here goes from the horizontal, going from the left, and you can adjust that at any time. So we'll go back to our first angle option on there. So this completes the assembly module.